And supply chain is actually a massive multi-trillion dollar complex industry. And so there's so many moving pieces in the background and there's so many things going on. It's crazy. People just don't even understand. However, you have people working on docks 24 hours a day. I mean, you have thousands of steamship lines going back and forth. There's planes, trains. It's like you think it's this simple thing. Oh, sure. You tell a truck to go pick up here and deliver here. But then once I got in, I was just overwhelmed with the amount of information that came my way. And I ended up meeting her boss and we talked and he convinced me that it was a road that I should take. And so I ended up going that route and here I am.
Everyone, welcome to the Entrepreneurial Odyssey podcast, where we talk about entrepreneurs and share their stories. And today I'm here with Casey Ainsworth. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing?
Good. Just quickly, just introduce yourself and what it is that you do.
Okay. So obviously my name's Casey. I actually have a couple different businesses. So originally I started a business in logistics. So I own a freight brokerage. And so we move outsourced freight from large customers, manufacturers. We help design custom freight solutions for different customers. And then we had customers that started reaching out to us we put together another part of the business that actually sells shipping containers. So that has spun into a whole sister company. And so now we sell and deliver shipping containers primarily in Salt Lake, but we've also done some sales around the country. But yeah, that's the two major businesses. And then also something exciting. My wife and I bought a property down in central Utah. We converted an old barn into an Airbnb and we've actually been hosting some weddings down there. That's a lot. My wife runs that, but that's just still something exciting we do in Utah. Yeah. I think today, primarily, I'd like to focus on the shipping container business, but that's just a little bit about my journey and where we're at right now.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I mean, it sounds like a lot of the businesses that you get into are just, and I think this is for everyone, just getting into solving a problem. You start in shipping and logistics. The next thing you're selling shipping containers because that's what people wanted.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's a big part of building a business was identifying a problem and then solving it. That's the most successful businesses that there are. I think a lot of failed businesses actually, people try to start businesses where there isn't really a problem. They just want to be in business. So I almost think that rather than just starting a business, identifying a problem and then building a business around it is actually going to be a better solution for a more successful business.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there's either people are trying to start a business without the research and that can cause failure, or the other thing is starting a business, something that they just don't have a lot of knowledge about or very passionate about.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%.
That'll kill you too. I mean, it's funny, if you're really passionate about something, you really enjoy something, you can build a business around it just because you are willing to take the time, energy, and effort to get into it. I mean, this podcast, for example, it's just something I always wanted to do. It was never really designed to be like a business avenue, but it could certainly turn into that as you get your audience and people want to advertise with you or product placement or whatever kind of stuff. But it's just something that I absolutely love doing. So that's why I do it. And I think it's super helpful in business to do something that you're really passionate about and that you understand.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. So even with that property that I was talking about that my wife and I have, so we actually bought the property. I proposed on the property. We got married there and we were just planning on Airbnb the property and using it as a second home. It's near the mountains and the desert. It's just a really cool area. But then after our wedding, just posting our wedding on social media, other people started reaching out to us and they were like, "Hey, that's a beautiful venue. Where is that?" And now it's spun into, actually, we've hosted a handful of weddings there and now people are starting to book it up for next year. So it was almost like not necessarily the intention. It was the intention of our wedding. But like you said, I mean, we put the blood, sweat, and tears into the property for our own use. And then other people saw that value. And so it's turning into a thing, which it's crazy.
Yeah, you just find that niche, find people that are looking for whatever problem to be solved, and there you got a business. As long as it's something you enjoy doing.
Yes, for sure. Absolutely.
So these shipping containers, is this for shipping that people are buying these or for building the home?
So we've done a mix of everything. So we've done some custom projects. We've built like office trailers. We've cut windows in them. We've cut garage doors into them. But a vast majority of what we do is we just deliver them to people's businesses and houses for storage. We have supplied some containers for building projects as well. You're talking about for people building homes or stuff like that. But a majority of our business, because we're in logistics, we put together a pretty good solution for delivering directly to people and being able to put them right on the ground without the use of a forklift or a crane. And so it's made it cost effective. And we basically take it from the beginning to end solution. So we've negotiated with companies in Europe and China and Korea to purchase the units after either brand new or after they've already been used for shipping. We sell new or used. And then we've just put together the storage solution of where we store the containers, and then put together a marketing solution to reach our customer base, and then also facilitate the delivery. Not everybody has the capability to deliver a 9,000 pound steel box to
Right.
people's backyard. So yeah, it's a little complicated, but we've definitely put it together.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, marketing's my niche. That's my world. That's what I do. What did you guys do to market the business? What was the strategy you used?
So we actually take we market with multiple different approaches. So obviously we offer the solution to our shipping customers. So that's one solution.
Yeah.
And then we run Google ads, we run Facebook ads. We also post to Facebook Marketplace as well as local like KSL. We post ads on KSL. Yeah, I mean, we market from a ton of different avenues, email, text message. Yeah, we build with our shipping side of the business. We end up using our CRM to build pretty large lists of, shipping and receiving customers. Our marketing list is pretty large actually, just from
Cool.
the other side of the business, feeding that side. So it works out really well.
So the list that you're talking to, is that just coming from customers, or do you have a newsletter or something that people sign up just to be notified when you have containers?
So as our logistics business grows, we deliver for one customer, we might deliver to 25 or 30 different places. And then sometimes they add new deliveries as they build their customer base. Every time we're delivering to a new place, we get new contact information, new delivery information, new locations, new cities. And so that all gets collected in our CRM and put together, and then gets added to our outbound reach list. We might deliver one shipment one time, but then their data is put in our CRM, and then we reach out to them and say, hey, we provide this solution. And then even though we only delivered there one time, it might be a solution that they're looking for. And so then we're able to provide it.
Yeah, and it could be something, way down the road too, as long as they just, don't unsubscribe kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. 100%.
Yeah, I think it's neat that you're using the free classified stuff to marketplace, KSL.
Mhm.
Do you have a product? There's no reason you shouldn't be using those things.
Yeah, for sure. I think it especially works well when you're selling something used, right? Because I mean, not a lot of, yeah, I mean, not a lot of businesses are selling used merchandise, but used shipping containers because they last for 30 years. It's like car classifieds. Like they'll list used cars all the time on classifieds ads and Facebook Marketplace. So used containers make sense from a business standpoint to still use marketplaces like that, just because they last for so long that they can be recycled multiple times through different owners. So it works out really well.
Yeah, that's neat. What do you think of the whole building a house out of containers concept?
So we've talked to different architects and different builders about doing it. I think it's a really cool. I think they look really cool. I think you can be really creative with the architecture. They end up with a unique design. I think that a lot of people's perception is that it's going to be a really cost-effective option. And so from my experience, when I've talked to builders or architects or people that were looking for plans, it's not as cost-effective as you would think, because you're like, oh, just a couple containers, you insulate them, you're good to go. And so I think that people think they're going to hit this $75,000 price point for a home.
Yeah.
And from my experience, the cost per square foot ends up being pretty similar to just a standard wood frame build. If you're looking for a container home or you like the architecture, it's definitely a really cool way to go. As far as being as cost effective as people think they are, I don't think that from my experience at least, and obviously I'm not on the builder side. I'm just
Right.
communicating with builders and helping them supply the containers, but it just doesn't seem to be as cost effective as people think. On the flip side though, like if you're to take one container, let's say a 40-foot container, and you were to build it out for a mini home type situation, then I think that is pretty cost effective. Because I mean, you could probably build those out for around 60 or 70,000 and then have them delivered and then installed on a foundation. So that can be really cost effective. Um, but obviously there's complications with that. I mean, certain cities won't allow it, and
Yeah.
zoning and a few other things. It's not super easy, but it's definitely cost effective if you go that route.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it just the sweat equity. If you're willing to put in your own, energy, time, that's where the cost savings is. But if you're going to hire contractors to come out and lay your flooring and put up your sheetrock, and it's going to be the same per square foot, whether it's a house or a container.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree for sure.
Yeah, that's interesting. But it is interesting to see how it's taking off, taking the industry by storms. And then you've got these new foldable homes that like Elon does and other companies where you just fold them.
Right. Is that called boxable? Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, it might be a box. Well, I could totally be wrong on that, but I don't remember, but it's something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, I've seen some ads for those. One thing that I do think is cool, we've talked about a lot of this in the container industry, but I mean, shipping containers are obviously like a required thing for the status quo for the supply chain to move things around the world.
Mhm.
Being able to recycle shipping containers for other uses is a pretty fantastic way to reduce the global carbon footprint because you're taking something that already had to be created for a different situation and then you're reusing it, which is really cool because then if you're talking about the cost being even for a stick built home versus a container home, the cool thing about a container home is you didn't have to cut down any trees, or maybe it cuts that down to a minimal. You still might
Right.
have some wood in there, but that's one thing that we as a team here think is really cool is like the contribution to the environment by reusing all that steel, all that labor. It's having multiple uses for the container and then to continue to use it through the end of its life. That's something that we, like I said, we think is pretty cool.
Yeah, well, I mean, they probably make great sheds and things like that to store your tools in for summer and put
Yeah,
some
sure.
firewood in for winter and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. One of the terms for a used shipping container is wind and water tight. Basically, what that means is it's really weather resilient. It's
Mhm.
also resilient to insects and then rodents and stuff. Even wood sheds will still get insects in them. They'll still get rodents. I mean, being wood, they have access to get through by chewing holes through it, or weather will eventually wear out things. But these are shipping containers are made with Corten steel, and then they create a complete seal where no water or air should be able to get inside. It definitely keeps your belongings safer. Also, I mean, when you talk about people trying, like theft is another issue, and you have to bring some pretty serious tools to get
Yeah,
into a shipping container versus like a shed with a wood door.
yeah, absolutely. You got a good place to store things. You got good safety, good weather protection. It's pretty awesome stuff. You find that is taking over the other business as far as revenue, or is their logistics thing still kind of bread and butter?
They're actually both doing really well. The container company feeds off the logistics company.
Mhm.
So it's as one grows, the other one grows. So they're growing hand in hand. Both of them are actually affected. Both of them were largely affected, as most people know, by COVID and government shutdown, all of that stuff. So both industries were directly affected. It was pretty cool. We were able to pivot, keep moving. We made it through, obviously, and we're still thriving and growing. So that's pretty fantastic. But yeah, both companies are actually growing steadily. That's exciting. We've had growth year over year for every year that we've been in business. So
Yeah, that's fantastic. So what got you into it in the first place? I don't think a lot of people just wake up and go, I'm getting into shipping and logistics. That's my passion. How'd you end up there?
it was actually from a friend. So a friend of mine who worked for a logistics company, I actually worked in the oil industry and I managed oil filled well sites. And it was crazy. She actually predicted, she said, "Hey, I think you would be really good at this." And I ended up meeting her boss and we talked and he convinced me that it was a road that I should take. And so I ended up going that route. And here I am. I worked for a large brokerage for quite a while, a large freight brokerage, and then eventually decided to move out on my own. But yeah, it was actually just completely by chance. And someone, for whatever reason, saw in me that I would be successful at this. And then apparently they were right.
Right. Yeah, it's really good. Did you find what kind of barriers did you come across as you were trying to learn this new business?
Um, some of the challenges, I think it's funny. I've talked to quite a few people about this. I mean, everyone just clicks on Amazon, things show up at their door, and people don't really know how it happens. And supply chain is actually a massive multi-trillion dollar complex industry. And so there's so many moving pieces in the background and there's so many things going on. It's crazy. People just don't even understand. And I was one of those people until I got in the industry. There's so much to learn and there's so many things happening and there's so much that goes into it. So many brilliant people and so many hardworking people. I mean, you have truck drivers who are amazing, away from their families forever. You have people working on docks 24 hours a day. I mean, you have thousands of steamship lines going back and forth. There's planes, trains. It's all the ports are crazy. I mean, yeah, that was one of the things is it just, you think it's this simple thing. Oh, sure. You tell a truck to go pick up here and deliver here. But then once I got in, I was just overwhelmed with the amount of information that came my way. It was pretty crazy.
Well, that is interesting. What are some of those things that kind of hinder the, the streamline process? Like
So, I
traffic
mean,
related or just like
yeah,
tariff
a,
related?
a lot of it can be, I mean, there can definitely be delays. There can be complications. I mean, you got to think about perishable food moving. I mean, there can be like issues with quality. There can be miscommunication between shippers and receivers or the providers of the trucking. If something is mislabeled or has the wrong pickup number, it can be shipped to the wrong part of the country.
Mhm.
It's a really detail oriented industry. And so there can be a lot of complications. You miss one little detail, there can be yeah, like 10 hours of lost time and thousands of dollars that of cost that was incurred from mistakes. It takes a lot of software, it takes a lot of systems. That's one thing that we make sure that we do is we make sure that we run all the premium systems that are available because it makes us very effective. We can run with a smaller team and still be really efficient. And it also helps us compete with a lot of the larger brokerages that are investing millions into their own proprietary software. So we use the top tier third party software. And so we make sure that we're on the same level as the larger brokerages.
Okay, cool. So just a lot of different inner workings.
Yeah.
What what's your extreme? So going back to the whole COVID, post COVID thing, and then we had that ship that got stuck in the strait over there, Middle East somewhere or something. I can't remember exactly, but
I think, was it the Suez?
yeah, this was, yeah,
Yeah.
it's like down south. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I couldn't remember where it was exactly, but yeah, what do you think? What do you think lessons we learned from that in the shipping world?
Well, I think that globally there's I can't remember what year. It was like probably 15 years ago, roughly. I could be wrong about this, but they called it, there was a whole process called just in time. And it
Mm.
was a way for retailers to not have to store as much inventory and everything would arrive just in time. And it's worked pretty flawlessly. It's saved billions and billions of dollars in storage costs. But then all it takes is that one ripple in the pond and people realize that there's still like a flaw in the just in time models. I think the world learned, how sensitive the supply chain can be. And I think that there's a lot of people that are working on solutions to prevent that from happening in the future. So I think that the industry learned a lot. I think the world learned a lot. And so I think that everybody important is now putting in effort to solve that problem to prevent it in the future in case something like that was to happen again.
Yeah, do you have any thoughts or ideas on what kinds of things could be put in place yourself? And thought about what you would do if you were a king for a day?
I mean, I think one thing is if you try to, I think a lot of it is just trying to use things that are manufactured as close to you as possible. I mean, the longer something has to travel, then the easier it is to have issues with your supply chain. So I think it's pretty important to try to source as local as possible for all of your manufacturing, even if sometimes that can have slightly increased costs. I think that communication, I think they learned there's a lot of breakdown in systems where communication through the systems, APIs, stuff like that can definitely help with smoothing out the process and everybody understanding what the next role. I mean, you transfer the product from here to here to here. Communication, transparency all the way through that process is definitely something that really helps because if one part of that process breaks down, then you're going to have supply chain issues. And then also, I mean, I definitely think it's smart to have at least a little bit of storage, kind of a mixture of the model. You have some of your supplies in storage, but then you're still running a half just in time model and then still having some storage.
Yeah, just in time with some backup products and things. I mean, not definitely not perishable, but maybe some of the non-perishable stuff you have at shipping points between A and B. across the country kind of thing.
Yep,
Yep,
100%.
yep.
And also I think that people learned a lot about just finding storage closer to them. I have some customers that have things that ship clear into Georgia, even though their primary deliveries are on the West Coast, and
Mm.
then people that ship things into Long Beach that have their primary customers are on the East Coast. And so I think people really had to look at their supply chain solutions once there was a problem and try to streamline those and make them more efficient. It forced a lot of people to crack into their business and really see what they were doing and learn a little bit more about the logistics side of what they had going on.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how AI is going to play a role in some of the logistics going forward.
Yeah. There's a lot of software that has been integrating AI for a while already. I think that trucking is definitely an industry that has been all over that movement. But yeah, I'm curious myself because AI is growing at a rate that is almost not comprehensible. Yeah, we'll see where it reaches and where how effective people are at using it to fill gaps and help and make things more efficient.
Yeah, especially, I mean, you're talking AI and logistics side of things, but even the self-driving trucks and stuff like that they're trying to come out where it just it'll pick up the stuff and it'll take it to from point A to point B, and it's all just automatically done. It could be a crazy world the next, 20 years when AI is just doing all that stuff
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah, that's a pretty hot debate, I think, in the trucking and logistics world, because I think there's people that are convinced that it's gonna happen, and I think there's people that are convinced that it's impossible. So
Yeah.
both sides are battling, and we'll see who wins. I think obviously, eventually, I think it's going to be a thing. Some people think are predicting it's going to be a thing in the next couple of years, and then some people think we're still quite a ways out or impossible. Yeah, that's definitely an exciting thing in the industry, and we're all going to find out soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, when we have like our AI and farming and our AI and the trucking and shipping logistics that way, and
Yeah,
it could be a whole different world the next 20 years for sure.
yeah. I think everyone agrees with that. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. What are you guys plans like for the next 10 years with what you're doing?
I mean, I wasn't ready for that. I mean, obviously, we try not to predict too far in the future because we're talking about things are evolving so fast. I think that we try to make trips every single year to different transportation conferences, technology conferences. So we're trying to make sure that we're aware of all the new things that are coming out, things that people are working on, things that are happening. We make sure that we stay flexible in that way. We like to stay asset light. We're really flexible with the market. If you
Mm.
have a ton of asset trucks and all of a sudden there's no freight, then you're losing money. We're being a brokerage, we're asset light. So that way freight prices have come down a decent amount from the peak after COVID. And
Yeah.
so we were able to pivot, stay nimble and absorb that. And if you paid, I mean, I don't think a lot of people watch logistics news, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of big companies that are actually going out of business right now just because they weren't able to stay flexible with the rise in rates, the supply chain disconnect, and then now the rates falling back down to normal or even a little bit below normal. With our business model, we're able to stay flexible and still support all of our customers. And so that's the plan in the future is just to keep that flexibility, make sure we don't overextend ourselves or pick up too many assets and then run into issues later because trucking industry has ebbed and flowed since the dawn of time. There's cycles that happen every few years, highs and lows, and it rolls with different economies. And we're going to focus on that flexibility.
Yeah. Well, I think, yeah, remaining flexible is so important in business. What kind of things do you do personally to study and continue your kind of education and things like that?
I just try to absorb. I try to go to different networking events. There's some great companies that like we get different magazines delivered monthly. I try to read those. We get news. We're members of the TIA, which is the Transportation Intermediary Association. They send a lot of great data. There's a lot of communication on their forums and their whole network. And then there's companies like Freight Waves that are just constantly gathering data, sending it out. Just try to read and absorb. And I mean, we also have communication. Our guys that are boots on the ground that are talking to truck drivers every day, talking to customers every day. We have our finger on the pulse of everything that's going on with that direct communication. So we try to watch that and move that feedback and communicate it through the company.
Yeah. So just continue to monitor, watch the industry.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's always moving. Yeah, it's never ever at a standstill. So yeah, watching that whole thing is very important.
yeah. You ever look at, and I guessing you probably have done this, but you ever look at this and go, I know this good enough to know that one of these days we might have a problem, just everything's shut down. You ever think about what you would do personally in that situation?
Yeah, I mean, it could definitely be scary. I mean, I think that anyone that was paying attention saw that during COVID, how
Mhm.
quickly everything was falling apart.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, without being extreme, I mean, I think it's important, even in your personal life, for
Mm.
how we were talking about the storage versus the just in time. I don't think it ever hurts to have a little bit of extra food, obviously, a little bit of extra toilet paper. That
Yeah.
seemed to be a huge thing. I mean, having some water supplies, hopefully, nothing crazy enough to where we completely shut down a supply chain. But I mean, even when there's some large hiccups during COVID, it was pretty close to not existing for a temporary period of time. I think anyone that was paying attention really saw how scary that could be.
Yeah. I mean, you would never, I wouldn't have thought that toilet paper was going to be the big thing that people got. But when you think about it, it's like that or leaves, I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, there's not too many alternatives. So
right.
yeah, yeah, that was pretty crazy to see on the news and try to deal with. I think that kind of blindsided a lot of people.
Yeah. I know me and my wife, we went out and got ourselves like 3 chickens just so we could have some eggs
Right.
in the backyard. Because, man, you never know. You get even just a big earthquake or something that shuts down the major freeways for, a while. It's going to take some time to come back. And obviously, not try to turn this into a doomsday prepping, but it is interesting from your standpoint, be able to look at that and know just how fragile it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's only a few days of shutdown away from being like really catastrophic. I mean, it's important to keep all that stuff moving. And then, like you said, I mean, not to go down the doomsday road, but I think people have lost a lot of skills too on how to provide for themselves without the supply chain continuously running.
Yeah.
Some people have a completely empty fridge and they just DoorDash every single meal. Yeah. I mean, even just as a hobby, learning some of those skills to learn how to garden or how to take care of yourself or provide food, get chickens or stuff like that. I think it's crazy because I personally just off social media and I've actually seen I think quite a few people have done that kind of like hobby farming. And some people are doing like mini homesteads on the edge of town. And
Yeah.
so I think a lot of people learned how sensitive it can be. So they're taking some steps in that direction, I think.
Yeah, I've seen some cool stuff like communities getting together and do community garden, things like that,
Yeah,
which is,
for sure.
great. I remember there was a little video or something. They were asking a little girl like, "Hey, where does milk come from?" And he said, "The store." I lost touch with how things are really made and created.
Yeah. Yep. I agree 100%.
So dependent on those things. But what advice would you give to up and coming entrepreneurs, business owners who are looking at starting a business or have a business? What are some of the things that you can tell them as far as how to get through some of the hard times and move forward?
I mean, there's a few things we touched on it earlier. I think identifying a problem first and building a business around it. I think that's a good start rather than just starting a business with no market research, like you were saying. I think that's really important. You're going to see a lot more success doing it that way. And another thing that I learned personally was try to capitalize yourself. Make sure that you have enough capital to get started. A lot of businesses fail. They have a great product they're selling. They just don't have enough capital to make it through the cycle of billing that they have. And capital is very important. Another lesson that I learned was to hire a tax consultant as early as you can possibly afford it,
Right.
because it literally change your life and your business's life stuck with. And to have a professional helping you is going to be a massive thing. Let me see. What other lessons have I learned?
Well, I can touch on that tax thing. I mean, even if you can't write as much off as you wanted to or be creative as you thought you could, at least understanding what you're going to have to pay. Because I think so many entrepreneurs get in there and business owners, they start up and at the end of the year, they made extra $30,000, $40,000 for the year, not realizing that 20, 30% of that's got to go to taxes, depending on kind of where you are. And now you're stuck with this $10,000 bill. You had no idea and people can really get themselves in trouble. So I totally agree. Get some tax help, get some of those basics in place, get a team bookkeeper.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And then also taxes, like a lot of people like to throw out the term loophole with when it
Mhm.
comes to taxes, but really it's just following the tax code. And so hiring someone that knows the tax code, I mean, taking all the exemptions that are in the tax code for your business can literally mean the difference of you surviving or not. If you're accidentally paying too much in taxes when you had a legitimate write-off that's in the tax code, then that could have saved you from going out of business. It can, and if you're doing enough revenue, I mean, it could be the difference of you hiring 2 additional salespeople or 2 additional customer service people, or I mean, it can really help your business. I definitely think that's a really important thing to
Yeah.
take care of. One other thing I would say too is if I heard this in an entrepreneur group I'm in, but it's to try to involve people that make your business money as early as you possibly can.
Yeah.
Because if you're the only person making money for your business, then you're going to be stuck in a job forever. Because the
Right.
second you try to step away, your business won't be making money and then your business is going to fail. So if early in the business you start hiring and you build a team of people that are making your business money, then you can focus on growing your business, scaling your business, implementing better systems. And then that way you end up with a business that's number one, it's sellable if you ever wanted to sell it to somebody else because you've created those systems, but also you're just able to step away and have the freedom to truly grow a business. Cause if you're in the trenches and you're grinding every day, you're never going to be able to have that outside perspective where you can truly grow your business.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic advice. It's been interesting as I interview a lot of other entrepreneurs and talk about their businesses and how it's so many of them share these characteristics of stubborn and not giving up and but also being passionate about what they do. And a lot of people, it's a calling that they're doing the business because they feel like it's the right thing. They're serving others and they love what they do. Not just it's not just for the paycheck, but they love what they. So I think it's just interesting to talk to someone who's passionate about something like logistics and shipping containers.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a huge part of the world, and like I said, I went in blind, and then once you realize how crucial it really is, it makes your role feel more important when you understand the magnitude of what's going on. Obviously, we're a smaller brokerage. We're based in Salt Lake City, but I mean, there's billion-dollar brokerages out there, but it's a big part of our existence, and without it, I mean, we literally wouldn't survive. So
Right.
a lot of people, but yeah, like I said, people have lost those skills, but yeah, it's definitely important. And we definitely take a lot of pride and we try to bring the best possible service to our customers at the most cost effective price. And yeah,
So how do people find your business, either with shipping containers or logistics? Like, what's the best way to get in touch with you guys? Find you online.
so we have Facebook pages for both companies. The logistics business is called Large Scale Logistics and the container company is called Large Scale Containers. And yeah, I mean, you can find us on Google, you can find us on Facebook, you can find us on Instagram. But yeah, you can also, I mean, you can give us a call. On our website has our phone numbers, has our email. Large Scale Logistics is just www.largescalelogistics.com, and shipping containers is just www.largescalecontainers.com. So
Nice.
yeah, you can basically any way you can think of, you can find us just by a search.
Well, that's cool. I will get those links and I'll put it in the notes of the podcast. So when people get to it, they can have the links that can go to your learn more about you, things like that too.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, that sounds amazing. Hopefully we can find people that need some services.
Yeah, I think that'd be awesome. And it's been like 40 minutes just flown by. I can't believe how fast that went, but it was really
Right.
fun talking to you.
Yeah, you too, man, for sure.
We will have to do it again sometime.
Okay, yeah, sounds great. Hopefully we can touch base next year and everything's just crazy and yeah, we can, just show how much we've grown and how much things have changed.
Yeah, that'd be great. Let's do it.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks for your time, man. I appreciate it. Have
Yeah,
the best day.
yeah, you too. Thanks, Casey.